It's about learning how to flex my style, depending on the audience, the situation, the stakeholders, and the desired outcome, right? So flexibility, I think, is clearly one of the primary areas that enables success in a large company or a career like my own.
Hello, I am Isabelita Castillo. I'm an executive career transition advisor, and welcome to the first episode of Coffee with Top Elite Executives. I'll be speaking to the creme de la creme, senior leaders and managers that have crossed my path along my career journey and have truly impressed me with their leadership skills and charisma. My goal and mission is to share with my audience insights and expertise that can be followed as a success formula. Today's guest is a senior leader from a Fortune 500 consumer goods company who is specialized in digital transformation, business to business to consumer, global sales strategies, business turnarounds, trade marketing and distribution across the world. Aside from English, he speaks fluent Spanish and Portuguese. Now, I invite you to join me in welcoming Stephen Filotas. Stephen, first of all, thank you for your kindness to join me today and spare time to share your advice and expertise. Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
So first of all, hello, Isabelita, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me and hosting me in your forum. Hopefully, I'll be able to share a little bit of my experience and background with your audience. Now, to tell you a little bit about myself, first of all, I'm extremely multicultural, grew up moving about every 2 to 3 years, and my professional journey has taken me on the same path, moving primarily across different countries in the Americas, prior to moving over to Europe, where I've spent the past 6 years in London, where I'm currently located. My background functionally has been in sales and brand marketing, okay? And I've spent over 25 years in consumer product goods, 20 of which have been in my current employer.
Wow, that is a lot. Stephen, 20 years in the same company? How did you manage that? It's not really common those days.
So indeed, I think it's being less and less common every day to spend this long in a single organization. Nonetheless, focusing on your area of expertise, which is career transitions, I can tell you I've transitioned approximately 15 times within my 20 years with my current employer. So I have had quite a few transitions within the organization, despite the fact that I spent so much time with the same company.
Wow, I really am impressed, Stephen. Now, if somebody wants to climb the ladder within an organization, what skill set, what mindset they must develop to be so recognized like you have been by your company, moving from brands, head of brands, then you went to sales, head of sales, global strategies in sales, then wow, suddenly digital transformation. So how can somebody do the same so they feel they're always having a new job within the same company?
Well, my career has been marked by being placed into primarily disrupted business units, okay? So historically, I've always taken on roles that have suffered from very relevant and significant challenges as I enter them. So disrupted business units, I think, is the best way of describing them. And in my experience, in order to be successful, there's probably 3 key attributes or at least three key areas that I focus on. Number 1, with so many transitions moving into disrupted business units, it's all about flexibility. Not every situation is the same. Not every set of stakeholders or a group of individuals you'll be interacting with have the same mindset. Not every line manager has the same style. So it's a lot about flexibility, right? And I think, at least personally, in my early career, that was one of my biggest personal leadership challenges. When I was young and starting off, I had one single way of attacking problems. So I was 100% intensity, 100% of the time trying to drive for results. And I didn't learn until later in my career, and I think this was one of my biggest challenges. It's about learning how to flex my style, depending on the audience, the situation, the stakeholders, and the desired outcome, right? So flexibility, I think, is clearly one of the primary areas that enables success in a large company or a career like my own. The second thing, I think, is, really being selfless. So putting your business or your shareholders' interest above individual or personal interests. And I've seen this many times in my career. Individuals who are very intensely focused on driving their career and their agenda, in the long term, have less successful careers than individuals who consistently focus on delivering the greater good, are team players, and add shareholder value in everything they do, and prioritize shareholder value in all of their decision making. So, I've consistently seen individuals become more and more successful by prioritizing team playing, shareholder value, and not just their individual personal needs. And when I say personal, I just don't mean their individual professional needs, but also the needs of their particular area or division. So that's a very narrow focus. If something can be better for the organization by sacrificing your particular business unit in order for the greater good, those individuals that have a broader view of what the business requires tend to go a lot further. The third thing for me, it's about focus, right? It's about focusing on what you can control. So I mentioned this already. My career has been marked by being placed into business units that are incredibly disrupted. And there's things that are completely out of your control that throw you into chaos. The macroeconomy, the economy is going poorly. Regulatory environment doesn't play in your direction. Your competitors are doing something that you can't control. So it's really about focusing on what you can control, focusing on decisions you can make, things you can actually influence, and not worrying about things that are outside of your control, right? It's what I like to call intellectual honesty, right? It's about avoiding confusion, avoiding distraction, and really focusing on delivering shareholder value by managing the tools, the levers, and the decisions that you can control within any given context. And I think those are the three key things, or three key suggestions I would have for any individual trying to progress their career within a large corporate environment.
Wow, that's amazing, Stephen. Thank you for sharing. I think aside from what you said, I can also see there is a huge level of mindset when it comes to emotional also leadership, emotional intelligence. You mentioned about intellectual, but also I think there must be a high level of self-control when things are chaotic, pandemic times, and then suddenly you don't have the team to get things done. As you said, you deal with disrupted business. So I can imagine the level of emotional intelligence that you have, not only to deal with stressed out situations yourself, but also to be able to manage remote teams. So this is really amazing. And I am certain that your company has you for 20 years, promoting you year to year or every 2 years, every now and then, because they really see that you are very, very capable to handle all kind of, from soft skills to very hard skills. So it is impressive indeed. Now, if somebody wants to develop that mindset, right? If somebody now is starting their career and they say, you know what, I'm now in brands, but I would love to be able to have a wider scope. I would like to be a little bit like Stephen. Maybe I want to handle also global sales. I want to be able to propose strategies. I want to also get involved with digital transformation because it's the moment is really all about digital transformation. So what would you recommend? What should they develop? What should they look for to be able to get to that level where you are now?
Wow. Well, I think more than what they should develop, it's about what they should do, right? And in my mind, the one thing I've always done is I've always said yes, right? And I think that's been a big career changer for me. There's a lot of individuals who shy away from opportunity because it doesn't fall within their natural historic skill set or career path. So brand marketeers tend to stick to brands, right? And I'll share with you a simple anecdote. So when I was in brand marketing, leading a brand department in one of the end markets, I kept on complaining about the fact that my fantastic strategies were being poorly executed, and that's the reason why they were under-delivering. And they were being poorly executed by the field force, by sales, right? One day I got called in by my land manager to his office, and he says, I've got good news and bad news. He said, the good news is from now on, your brand strategies will be perfectly implemented. The bad news is, as of tomorrow, you are now the head of sales, right? So, those are the kind of career shifts that are abrupt and that make individuals very uncomfortable, right? And a lot of individuals shy away from them or reject them altogether, right? As opposed to taking on the challenge, looking for personal growth, and embracing the opportunity to learn something different, to transition into a different functional area with different skill set requirements, right? And going back to the core success factors that I mentioned before, a lot of it is about flexibility. And when I mention flexibility, it's not just being open to new experiences, it's really about taking advantage of new experiences for personal, intellectual, and professional growth. The more skills you add into your skill set, the more valuable you will be to the company, right? Or to any organization or employer. So it's always about taking advantage of all these opportunities as they present themselves and making the most of them, learning from them, and trying to attain some personal growth.
Wow, this is amazing, Stephen. Now, in talking about transition, so how does one transition from brands to sales and then now to digital transformation? So if you can tell us a little bit and maybe what you're doing right now.
So, I already gave you a little bit anecdote about why or how I transitioned from brand to sales. The functional side, obviously, was a really interesting challenge. You move from managing a small set of individuals working with agencies to define brand strategy, the brand DNA, the tone of voice, the look and feel of a brand, the personality, and the communication channels of how your brand positioning will be transmitted to consumers. And you shift all the way over to managing a large sales department with over 1,000 headcount spread over a broad geography with a very challenging and, in that case, a very a difficult geography in terms of security, right? So my problems went from being completely strategic to being very human focused, right? Everybody was all the individuals within the organization were more focused on their personal security and attaining the appropriate KPIs in terms of not just sales volume, but also shared targets and distribution, availability, out of stock, and all the core sales metrics and KPIs that we have to manage, right? So you go from managing very strategic concerns to very human concerns. In my last move, transitioning from managing global sales into the digital transformation, it was also about adding a whole new dimension to my existing skill set. So Salesforce in my organization has traditionally depended on huge amounts of headcount, moving massive amounts of product across millions of outlets globally on a weekly basis, right? And the only way to elevate that after you have a very high-performing team is to digitize it and add different tools to the equation. So I transitioned over to the digital transformation side of our field force, moving B2B2C at a global level. Had to learn completely different skill set for myself. So once again, taking advantage of those personal and professional growth opportunities within each transition. And I think my current role actually adds my background in strategic thinking from my brand side and my expertise managing global field force, global sales, trade marketing, and distribution skill set, and bringing them to a whole new dimension by taking a look at how digital tools can really help accelerate our agenda, become infinitely more effective, be more efficient with our marketing investment, and being able to reallocate our investment away from transactional activities, and moving it into a lot more consumer-facing, value-adding activities, right? And that's all enabled through digital, where we had to also navigate complicated situations in terms of our delivery when the pandemic hit, right? So we were deploying through the top 70 end markets globally. All the markets you would assume. So in the Americas, Canada, Brazil, Europe, Italy, Germany, Romania, etc. Moving across the globe into Asia, Australia, and Japan. And we depended heavily by having boots on ground for our deployment. When the pandemic hit and we were unable to travel and send teams of individuals to the end markets for deployment purposes, we had to reinvent ourselves altogether or stop our digital agenda. Clearly, stopping is not one of the options. So we reinvented our methodology completely and actually went into completely remote deployments in very significant and relevant markets like Germany, Japan, Canada, etc. And managed to do the deployment of our new digital platform, train thousands of headcount in the use of the new digital tool, transition huge sets of data into the new toolkit, ensure quality of transition, and make sure that the field force did not lose a single order within the process. So, very glad to have added the digital skill set, and opportunity to learn in the digital field, and how that transitions and adds into the Salesforce capabilities.
Wow, this is fantastic, Stephen. It's unbelievable how you were able to do that in such a very large markets and number of markets that you had to work with. And I'm sure people would have got sick in some of those places when there was a huge, the pandemic was really high and there were still no vaccines. And that I'm sure that you must have really managed to use your, emotional intelligence skills to be able to handle also those people and control the situation. So congratulations, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And just before I go into my last question to the audience, if somebody wants to talk to you and learn a little bit more about how you have done that, perhaps looking for a little bit of mentorship or just networking, how can they reach out to you?
The best way to reach out to me, Isabelita, is LinkedIn, right? So I think that's the best platform. I'm open and available on LinkedIn for any kind of networking. Happy to connect with anyone who's looking for the ability for me to, pick my brain, share my experience.
Lovely.
Stephen Filotas, LinkedIn, should be easy to find.
I'm sure you're going to be a great mentor, and I just hope you have time for how so many people are going to want to know how you did that. Lovely. Okay, so now in my very final question, Stephen, if you were to project yourself in time, let's say 20 years ahead of now, and so what would have been the biggest level of satisfaction you'd have reached in your life and career if you were to look back in hindsight?
Wow, when you talk about satisfaction in life and career, and I think the word that comes to my mind is balance, right? And the reason I say balance, it's because the legacy that I would like to look back upon my life to leave, it's about family first, right? Mm-hmm. And when I say balance, it's about finding the right balance behind doing what I enjoy doing, which is dedicating time towards building businesses, but at the same time, being able to do all of this for my family, okay, and being able to accompany and support my children as they grow and launch them into adulthood. So, 20 years down the line, what I would have hoped to leave as a legacy is that balance of being able to feel productive in growing businesses, which is an activity I truly enjoy, and leveraging that passion to be able to, deliver to my family, a quality of life and spend sufficient time with them to launch my children into adulthood as productive members of society.
Wow, this is really beautiful, Stephen. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'm sure you're inspiring many out there who are watching this now. So, Stephen, thank you so much for being here today. It's been amazing having you.
Isabelita, thank you very much for hosting me. I hope your audience finds some value in the experience and my background that I've been able to share a little bit today. And thank you very much for having me on your show.
Thank you, Stephen. Everyone, thank you so much for watching and being part of this community. I hope you have enjoyed and feel really ready to revamp now your career with so many amazing insights from Stephen Filotas. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel to keep getting more and more insights from the top elite executives across the world. And until next time, stay blessed.